Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is day 120, July the 2nd, 2017. It is Sunday. It's a beautiful day here in Southern Ohio today, and hopefully it's a beautiful day wherever you are. Hopefully you got to sleep in a little bit today, and you're having a very good Sunday. Going to do a video today, not so much covering the main sort of current topics that are dropping, but just a larger topic in general of the mainstream media, the corporate media. Talk a little bit about the history of the media, what has happened, and where it's all going. So that's what I want to talk about today, just for a few minutes. Keep this video hopefully shorter than the last two or three. We're close to an hour long. But something we're obviously all watching and paying very close attention to. A lot of focus is being placed on this particular topic right now because of everything that's going on with Trump and the media and everything like that. And there are some people saying, yeah, well, Trump is, he's the reason that, the mainstream media is dying or what have you. And I wouldn't really say that he's the reason that the mainstream media is dying or collapsing or what have you. I mean, there's a lot of other things going on. He certainly has been a point of acceleration. The things that he's doing is certainly helping to accelerate the collapse of the media. But right now, as a result of all the conflict that's going on, they're actually enjoying, or had been enjoying, some really good ratings, both at MSNBC and also at CNN. But of course, in the last couple days, we've seen CNN's numbers turn back downward, and of course, NBC's just never really been able to crack very much of a viewership. The most recent numbers just came out Friday, and I took a look at them last night, and so some very interesting things to be revealed from the new ratings numbers that are out. But I want to focus this video based on a poll that came out from Quinnipiac. I'm not sure how recent this poll was. I think it's within the last 30 days because I was searching the last month of content. And so I found this Quinnipiac poll, which shows that 59% of Americans polled hate the mainstream corporate media. 59% hate the corporate mainstream media. Now, when we talk about the mainstream media, we are obviously talking about print, network, and cable, and of course we can assume as well they're on those who have an online presence, which is just about all of these. But I don't think that that's what people are really talking about. I think when you ask them about the media, they're thinking about ABC, NBC, CNN, and people like that, and probably the New York Times or what have you. I don't think people think about the corporate media in the online world. I think they're thinking about offline. And something else that this poll shows, it shows that 59% are angry, shows that 26% are dissatisfied, and it shows that 52% believe that Trump has had an impact on the mainstream media's 52% believe Trump has had an impact on people's feelings towards the media. And again, that's because he's accelerating things, and he's thrown himself into the fray unlike never before. We've never seen a politician challenge the media the way Donald Trump has. Generally, the politicians are terrified of the media, and they don't do anything to upset them. And if the media calls them out on anything, they come out and do a press conference and a spin job, and they hit the major networks and try to save themselves. They do not want to be the focus of any negative reporting, and so they'll do anything to avoid it, unlike Trump, who openly challenges them and fights with them daily on Twitter. So it's a whole new situation that we're witnessing now. And I wouldn't say that Trump is the reason for all this, but he certainly is accelerating the process of the collapse of the media. And we have a lot of evidence to support that, of course. We know, we've been watching what's been going on at the New York Times. Of course, they fired a bunch of editors and journalists. And this has to do with the financial problems that they're having at the New York Times. They've been able to maintain their stock price, but they're bleeding red ink, and they know it's a matter of time before their stock price catches up with their financials. And we know they fired a bunch of editors, and we talked about that in an earlier video, and they plan on firing many more. And something that they did also this week is that to determine who they're going to fire, they decided that all of their editors and I guess their top tier journalists have to resubmit their employment applications to their human resources department. They're going to review all these applications. And this has ticked off so many people there at the New York Times that they actually have had walkouts at the New York Times. So now they got the protesters out there. Now they have editors and journalists doing walkouts, leaving the New York Times because they don't like this idea that they all have to reapply, fill out new job applications, and submit them to their human resources department so that they can be looked at and probably analyzed and probably used as the reason for firing them, so that the New York Times can avoid any lawsuits, which I think are coming anyway. So the New York Times is really struggling. We know that Time magazine laid off a bunch of people. So all these, the magazine publications are probably, and the print media are being hurt the most. And it's very difficult because the online media sources are free for the most part. Most of it is free. There are obviously paid subscriptions you get online, but most of it is free, and it's and a lot of people have more trust in a lot of the independent. I mean, people would rather go watch Styx Hexenheimer or H.A. Goodman or Stefan Molyneux or even InfoWars for that matter, than read the New York Times or the Washington Post or any of these people. They've lost a lot of credibility, and that's really the only thing they had. I mean, the thing that the newsprint media had, which if they could have hung on to it, would have kept them relevant. But they unfortunately abandoned the only thing that really would have allowed them to stay viable, which is to maintain their credibility. And they have lost that, and that's the main reason why we're seeing them going down the tubes as well. We also saw CNN, Project Veritas, just did another release, and they say they've got much more coming. But this particular release, the third one, shows an interview with really this lame liberal producer there at CNN, where he says that they believe that the voters are stupid. And this has already begun in the last week, caused a serious downturn at CNN. As you know, I said in a video about a week ago that yes, CNN's getting great ratings from the from all the controversy going on between Trump and CNN, and MSNBC's getting ratings because of Trump fighting with Joe and Mika. But this is a very short-term, thing. Once the Project Veritas video came out, where the producer admitted that they purposely lie to people and make up fake stories to get more viewers, to keep their stock price up, a lot of those viewers at CNN, as I said, are starting to wake up and realize that they are being used. They are being played as pawns. They are being fed garbage, only to keep them on the edge of their seat, hoping that something that CNN says will actually come to pass. It never does. And so some of these people are wising up. And I looked at the ratings, and I mean, they're horrible. Even Fox News. Fox News ratings are down 50% from what they were 2 or 3 years ago. Obviously, losing Bill O'Reilly cost them 1.5, 2 million views a night. Just losing Bill O'Reilly cost them a healthy amount. They had already been down 50%. But you look at a lot of these shows. I was looking at the second and third tier shows, CNN and MSNBC. Most of these shows, as I was looking at them, most of these shows do not even have 1 million viewers. Not even 1 million people watching Chris Hayes. Not even 1 million. I think Rachel Maddow had 1.4. But they were double those numbers. Just a couple of weeks ago, their numbers were double that. CNN has always been ahead of MSNBC. MSNBC has always been the bottom of the tank. Morning Joe and Berzika, they don't even get a million viewers. Average, they're like 0.896, I think it was, or 894. So they're under 1 million viewers. I mean, there are YouTubers who get 10 times that. So you look at Stefan Molyneux or someone like that. These guys, Sargon, these guys get 10 million views, even more than that. So you can see it's having a major effect, and it's just a matter of time. So just want to go through a bit of a history on the whole media thing. This country was dominated by the newspapers for 150 years. And then, it was the only form of media, really. And then along comes radio. So when radio first comes along, the print media said, well, we're not really worried about radio. Nobody will take it seriously. It's just for entertainment. It will never be taken seriously. But eventually, radio was taken seriously, and by the late 1920s, early 1930s, it was now being included as a legitimate source of information for news. And then, of course, Franklin Roosevelt, when he started doing the fireside chats, really put the legitimization into radio. But the print media still did very, very well and thrived, because at the time, radio really, they didn't have like journalists out, digging up stories and stuff like that. The source for all of the news that the radio was reporting was coming from the newsprint media. So the newsprint media was still the engine driving information. They were the ones who were cultivating the raw data, the raw information, the real news. And the radio was simply a format which reported what the print media was producing. This was the exact same thing that happened with TV. When TV first came out, again, they said, well, no one will take TV seriously. It's not really a threat to us. And, so we're not really worried about it. It's just for entertainment. But eventually, TV began to be taken seriously, and they did just as the radio did. And they basically would report on TV stories, but most of the information that they were reporting was coming from the print media, the newspapers. They were still driving the information train, still the source of almost all the information. So you had radio and TV simply giving you another medium to receive the information, but radio and TV really wasn't out there on the ground with investigative journalists digging into these stories. It was still the print media and beat writers, the guys who were beating the streets, having sources and things like that. Now, that began to change right around the late 40s, early 50s. You begin to see these media organizations, particularly in the TV organizations, getting their own journalists. A lot of them coming from the newspaper industry, coming into TV so that TV could have their own journalists, their own investigative reporters, so they could get a lot more original content, and that began to put them in competition with newspapers. But keep in mind, a lot of the people who owned TV networks also owned newspapers. So you could own at that time, prior to the Communications Act of 1987 or 86 or 87, prior to that you could own up to 3 different media sources in one market. So this is exactly what was happening. You would see a media owner who would own a TV station, a newspaper, and a radio station. And so they would diversify themselves, and this is why this was happening. So they were able to move reporters from print into TV or radio and vice versa, and they would move around. So the TV and the radio, not so much radio, but more TV, began to produce a lot of their own raw information. And while it looks like it would be competing with the newspapers, again, a lot of the people who owned these TV stations also owned newspapers. So it was kind of kept regulated and in check. And of course, these were different times back in the 1950s and things like that. And the most important thing to the television media at that time in the 1950s and moving forward was that they knew that they had to go out and find anchormen who were really could be trusted. That was the number one thing they were selling in the TV market to compete with the newspaper and to be taken seriously, was to have that trust factor. That's why they would really seek out these the best people they could find, the Walter Cronkites, John Chancellor, people like that, Roger Mudd, these really serious individuals who sort of had that credibility factor and trust factor working for them. This is the type of people that you would see and on these news media networks. But then, of course, we had in the 80s, we had cable news come out. And of course, Ted Turner with CNN was really the first big media mogul to come out with a big major cable network. And his goal for CNN was to make it the first international news network, which he did. And he was very successful, and CNN was very successful when they first came out. And they were fairly much a legitimate news organization back in those days. They weren't producing a lot of raw information. Again, they were more of a clearinghouse of information that was being sourced from other forms of media, but CNN was the broadcast version of an earlier time, when they just were more of a medium that repeated stories or found stories, aggregates of stories, and they weren't so much doing a lot of investigative journalism at CNN in the early years. They were just finding stories out there from all these other sources and giving you the sort of cable version of it. So cable gets its start then, and then of course then we had Fox News, and we had the networks starting their own cable, and so then the cable came out. But most of the cable companies, while they were taking viewers from the network news, there was still plenty to go around, and the print media was still the driving force. You watch any cable news show, network news, or radio, or even the early online stuff, the sources being cited for most of the stories were still coming almost always from the New York Times, or the Chicago Tribune, or the Washington Post, or some medium like that. So we can see this progression of media as it move forward. And you can see where the competition has always been there, but just because of the way the whole thing was set up, you had the same people who owned newspapers, owned radio stations, owned TV stations. So they weren't really trying to put themselves out of business. A guy who owned a radio station wasn't trying to put his newspaper out of business. He owned both. He wanted them all to succeed. And because of the mass amount of people wanting to consume a lot of information, there was plenty to go around. It's a big feast. It's a big table. There's plenty for everybody to eat. But what's happened in the past, I would say 15 years, is that we've really seen the credibility of news go down the tubes. And it started, of course, with the cable networks and found its way into the network news, and now even into the newspapers. And what has happened is that because of the explosion of the internet, everyone is fighting so hard to get views that they've had to resort to infotainment. They've had to cross the line from being straight news organizations into information, because they need those salacious headlines, that clickbait, in order to get people to view their networks. Because again, it's about the bottom line, it's about the profitability of the company, the stock prices, and now these media organizations are huge conglomerates. We used to have several hundred people who owned the TV stations across the country, and radio stations and newspapers. Now you have about 6 large corporations which own almost all of the media in the print media, television, network, and cable, as well as the film industry. So this is also, while it's made them a lot of money and made them huge corporations, it's also hurt them, because we have a lot lower quality of news and information, and everybody fighting for the same viewers and willing to do anything to get them viewers. And what this has caused is it's caused a credibility crisis. And now with the credibility crisis, created a beautiful big open door for people like an Alex Jones, or Stefan Molyneux, or H.A. Goodman, or anyone like that. And so you can see that this has been a process that's been going forward. And to me, I think the big turning point was actually the Obama presidency, because Barack Obama was the first president to really use the alternative media, particularly Twitter and Facebook, had a huge part in his campaign, and it really caught the Clinton campaign by surprise. They weren't quite ready or prepared, or maybe didn't think about using it to the extent that Barack Obama did. But one thing you can credit Barack Obama for, and the people around him, not that I liked Obama, because I despised Obama and his policies as well, and most of the people around him, I will give them credit for being astute enough to understand the power of social media, and Obama used the power of social media to come out of nowhere as a nobody candidate who nobody had ever heard of, to come out and blow Hillary Clinton away and win that presidency, and then get reelected doing the same thing. His powerful presence on social media was definitely a major factor, if not the primary factor, why Barack Obama was able to defeat Hillary Clinton and any Republican opponents that he had. He was just so far ahead of them. And Donald Trump, being a very smart guy, understood this. Donald Trump certainly understood it. And it's kind of strange that Clinton, I think Clinton did try to use the social media. It's just that the problem that you have on social media, and the problem the media networks have on social media, is that unlike the print media, unlike cable, unlike network news, unlike the radio, where you just have to sit there and listen to this stuff and you cannot, and it's not interactive, on the internet everything is interactive. For instance, on my videos, you can watch my videos and then you can comment. You can make a comment as whether you agree with me, disagree with me. You can have interactions between the various people on, like we have here on my channel. You know, you guys all get into, you know, conversations amongst yourself and start talking amongst yourself, you know, around one of my videos or something I've talked about, or maybe you pick something else. You guys are just, you know, so you have this free exchange of ideas and communication going on, and there's no editor. There's nobody. I'm not sitting back monitoring and editing what people say or do. I'm not removing comments. I'm not, you know, jumping on people for saying things I don't like or agree with or anything like that. The only comments I've ever removed from any of my videos is when I get these girls, like maybe 2 or 3 times a month, I'll get these girls who leave little comments, like 1-sentence comments with the link, and they want you to click on it, and they're, you know, doing something, you know, on an internet site, you know, pornography related, and I remove those every time. I don't allow pornography links on my channel. That's the only thing I'll ever remove from my channel. Anything else you guys want to talk about, even whether I agree with it, disagree with it, whatever, I don't edit content or anything like that. I don't kick people off my site. I don't do any of that. It's wide open. You know, talk about whatever you want to talk about. You know, I had one person that dropped some language I didn't like one time, and I asked her to please not use that type of language, but I didn't remove her comment. So anyway, it's the free exchange of ideas that you have on the internet. It's the fact that you can go watch someone's video and people can comment and they can disagree or what have you. You don't have this in the corporate media world on the mainstream, and this is one of the major reasons why, is that the internet is an interactive. News is now interactive. You can now agree or disagree. You can now make a comment. You can get your opinion out there. Everybody is a journalist. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody is a pundit, and that's fantastic. That's exactly what we needed. And so this is a big reason why the media corporations are failing. And another reason is simply the cost. You know, the cost of maintaining a New York Times, the staff, the building, the overhead. The same with a big news organization like CNN or MSNBC. They have all these people to pay. They have these buildings. They have these people making millions and millions of dollars they have to pay. Whereas YouTube creators, I mean, they sit there at their kitchen table with a video camera, and they have no overhead. You know, they have no staff. They have no editors. They have no cameramen. They have no building. They have none of these things. They have no. All it costs them is what it costs them to get a camera or a computer and an internet connection. I mean, that's their overhead. So it's a drastically different world that we're seeing in the media, and so what is happening, and I believe a lot of the reason for the failure and the failing of the New York Times, the cable networks, even the formerly trusted network news programs, is it's simply a paradigm shift. We are going through another shift, just like we had when radio came out and challenged newspapers. Then TV came out and challenged radio and newspapers. Then network TV. Then cable TV. And then the internet. And something will come after that. And so, you know, you have this constant situation constantly happening. And so it's just a paradigm shift, and the media does not understand it. The current media, you know, they don't get it. They don't understand it. And so in an effort to try to save themselves, they're doing everything they can. And right now they believe that the solution to saving themselves is to be as salacious as possible, to be clickbaity, to do anything that they can to stir up as much controversy as they can. That's why they love this stuff with Trump at CNN and MSNBC. They're getting huge ratings spikes on these individual occurrences as it happens, but you'll see once they get a spike on that occurrence, like MSNBC had with the battle over Psycho Joe and crazy low IQ Mika versus Donald Trump, they had a 1 day or 2 day spike and then they're right back down. So they'll get these spikes, but they can't hold on to it, and they can't make it last forever. We saw CNN, they had very high ratings during the Russia-Trump collusion thing that they were selling, but once the Veritas video came out, within literally 24 hours, when all those viewers of CNN realized that that CNN was purposely lying to them to get them to tune in, a lot of them tuned out, and we saw them drop by 750,000. They lost 750,000 viewers in 1 week because of that. And Trump is accelerating the process because Trump is bringing out the worst in them. While they are enjoying the temporary spikes that they get when they have a fight with Trump on Twitter, it's CNN or MSNBC or New York Times or whatever, it doesn't translate into long-term viewership. It doesn't translate into a good long-term model for their failing media organizations. And they will continue to fail as the paradigm continues to shift. But in the process of doing what they're doing, attempting to get these temporary spikes, they are destroying their credibility. And just as we saw with the network news, when Dan Rather did the fake story on George Bush, destroyed ABC's ratings, or CBS's ratings. And then of course you had the Brian Williams incident at ABC and destroyed their ratings. You can see that these media organizations know that when these big time anchormen, if they're not completely clean, if they screw up and they lose even this much credibility, I mean, they literally see a massive decline in ratings. It's a very sensitive thing for people to tune into you and have trust in you. As soon as you lose the trust of your viewers, they go away. They go looking for somewhere else to find news. And quite honestly, what we're seeing here is a rapidly accelerating decline in the older forms of media, and it's really hit the print media like the New York Times and the papers harder than anybody, because when TV and radio and cable came out, they still really couldn't take away the print media market, because there was still something about people getting a physical newspaper delivered to their house in the morning, maybe out of habit or maybe just because it's a more trusted news source. They had their newspaper. But now with the internet, it's essentially an online newspaper. It is a printed source. So the internet poses a great threat to the print media, because it is also essentially a print form of media as well. It's visual. You don't physically hold the paper in your hands, but you're actually reading print on a screen of your computer as opposed to holding it in your hand. So what we are seeing is just a natural progression of a paradigm shift in media in general, but what you're also seeing is a massive acceleration of the decline, because the media organization's response in trying to save themselves is to become more tabloid and more salacious. And in the process of doing so, they are losing their credibility and authenticity, and they are therefore poisoning the well for themselves in the long term. Their CEOs are enjoying the short-term benefits of these spikes, but they're setting themselves up for long-term quicker collapse. If the print media was smart, if the New York Times were smart, what they would have been doing is they would have been really working even harder to become as authentic as possible and as correct as possible, citing good sources, getting stories right, and maintaining credibility. Credibility. That is what is going to save your butt in the media business, because that's what it's all about. People, you have to have credibility, and people have to trust you. When I come on and do these videos, people know, they say, hey, you get the feeling that I'm telling you what I really believe, which is true. I'm not here to do clickbait. I'm not interested in clickbait. I don't like clickbait. I don't do it. I don't do it. I won't do it. I know I could have, a lot more viewers if I did, but it's just not what I want to do. So but you see a lot of people doing it, and because so many people do it so successfully on the internet, these corporate heads look at it and say, well, gee, we got to be able to compete with these people, so they're being drawn in and sucked in. So what was once formerly trusted news sources in the print media and even in the network news have been forced into trying to compete with the online media, and in doing so, the techniques that they have used have caused them to lose credibility, which is only going to accelerate their collapse. Now, they won't totally go away, but you can bet. I just looked at a list as I was doing the research for this video. There's over 150 failing newspapers in the country right now. A lot of these are the small local papers are failing. You have the big papers failing. New York Times, you have the big magazines. Time Magazine, a magazine that was successful for so many years, a huge moneymaker. Time Warner, failing, losing money. And so it's a paradigm shift that's going on in the media. There's nothing that can be done to stop it. There's no amount of salacious things that you can say or clickbait that you can do that's going to save your hiney if you're in this business. It's what's going to happen is going to happen. And again, if I were the CEO of one of these major corporations, I would have played the long game, and I would have tried. While I was watching all my competitors become tabloid, I would not have done that. I would have said, we're going to be the one guy left standing that still does hard-nosed journalism, real investigators, real unbiased reporting, real fact-based reporting with good sources. We are gonna be the last man standing with credibility and integrity, and that's how we're going to survive this change that's taking place in the country and in the world. And unfortunately, they did not do that. Instead, they were replaced by people like me and Stefan Molyneux and Stix Hexenheimer and H.A. Goodman and people like that, regardless of whether they're on the left or on the right, because all of us that I just mentioned are all probably in slightly different places politically. But one thing that we all do is I have no problem coming out and criticizing a Republican, a Democrat, a Libertarian, any of these people. I have no loyalties to the political ideologies, no loyalties to politicians, no loyalties to parties, no loyalties to any corporate media people, because I am not being paid by them, nor do I want to be. I have a job. I have other sources of income. I would never want to be paid to do this. Or especially by a corporation or something like that. So it's a matter of whether or not you allow yourself to be compromised or not. But I can't put a time frame on it, and I don't think that I can say that the cable and network and newsprint will never go totally out of business. I don't think that will happen, not in my lifetime. But certainly they are going to be sharing the revenues or sharing. They're going to become much smaller. Much smaller. They're going to be they're going to be just regular size, small to medium sized fish in a very large pond. They are no longer going to be 5 big fish in the pond that eat everything else. They are going to continue to lose viewers. They are going to continue to. We're going to continue to see independent media organizations like One American News Network is really good. They're really good, and you're going to continue to see them grow. You're going to continue to see people come up with new ideas for how to do media corporations. Even the Alex Jones thing. I mean, Alex has grown a lot. I basically like Alex. I don't watch a lot of Alex Jones, but I basically like Alex, and I would like to see Alex become a little more on the credible side. I would like to see him get away from some of the real salacious stuff he does and actually take advantage of the massive hole that exists, and to become a little more on the credible side, and maybe even to walk away from the actual news part of what he does and let other people take that over and try to bring a little bit more legitimacy to it. Not that it's not legitimate, but it could be done better. And so anyway, there's massive opportunities right now for the internet media based ideas, and less for those in the failing cable and network news. I mean, eventually these forms of communication will just disappear. Everything will be online. Everything will be internet based, and so it's a transition period. It's a paradigm shift that's happening. Nothing can be done to stop it, and this has a lot to do with what we see going on. I mean, you know, when you have these massive media empires and you see them slipping away, and you're the people who run these organizations or you work for these organizations, you are going to do everything that you can to try to save your network, save your job, or what have you. Unfortunately, the response and the measures they have taken, the actions they have taken to try to do this are incorrect. What they should have done, again, what they should have done is said, hey, we need to be more credible. We need to be more authentic. We need to be better. We need to build more trust in our viewers. This is the direction they should have gone in, but unfortunately they went tabloid, every damn one of them, and it's going to destroy them. And so I would expect that we're going to see in the 2018 and especially in the 2020 election, I think we're going to see more money and more effort being put into the internet media in both the presidential campaigns, both Republican and Democrat. Donald Trump is going to use it very well. I'm sure the Democrats have learned that they're going to have to do it as well. But like I say, the downside to all that for these people is that, of course, when you enter into the world of the internet media, people do get to comment, and there is a conversation that goes back and forth. It's not just you putting out the garbage and people being forced to sit there and suck it up. People on the internet, it is an interactive form of media, and in an interactive form of media, you will be called out when you lie. You will be called out when you spin things. You will be called out when you do clickbait, when you do unsourced stories, when you do these sorts of things. So something good will come out of all of this, which is this will keep those who do succeed in the internet world of news will do so because they built up credibility. And those who lose their credibility and sell their soul will be the big losers. And that right now appears to be MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, and all those. So I predict as we see them have a massive fail, and I believe that this will come the day after the 2020 elections. I believe the day after the 2020 elections, which I believe Trump will win unless something extraordinary happens, I believe that will be the beginning, the final beginning of the end for these media organizations, and they will all begin to have major overhauls at their media organizations, and they will have to finally learn what I've just told them that they should have done a long time ago, that becoming a tabloid, salacious, scandalous media organization is not going to work in the future. It's going to be about credibility and trustworthiness. That is where the future is. That is where success will be found in the future of the media. And that's what we should all aspire to. And I think that, as I said in my previous video, once these big media organizations lose everything and they hit rock bottom, they'll be forced to face reality. And a lot of these people who've been peddling this garbage, their media careers are going to take a very severe dive, and they'll never really be able to restore their credibility. They'll maintain some loyal fan base that can probably pay the bills and get by, but they're never going to command the major multi-million-dollar salaries that they have now. People like Rachel Maddow and people like that, they'll never command that kind of money. Megyn Kelly, people like that, they'll be back to having to work for a living like the rest of us, and their day in the sun will be over. And the media paradigm shift will continue. There's no force powerful that can stop it, and we're all going to benefit from it in the end. So as frustrating as it is to watch this all happening now, just remember, on the other side of this, it's all good news. Okay? You all take care. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.